But let's center around a quarterback, LSU's quarterback commit, that is. Colin Hurley, the four-star quarterback, played with 24 karat gold was the team name. So I can tell you, after watching him, he does have a golden arm. His arm talent is pretty pure and very, very high level. Some of the throws he made, very impressive. He's just able to fit it in some tight windows. He was very, very good. I thought he made the top performers list for On3. He had a couple nice touchdown drives to lead off his tournament. He had a pick shortly after that, a 3-and-out, and then finished with a touchdown drive. He faced the most talented team in the tournament, Trillium Boys, to close out Saturday, and kind of was up and down. Had a few really impressive throws, but certainly with their talent level, it was a little bit different going in that game, and they lost a close one. They weren't able to get it into the end zone right at the end of the final drive. But then on Saturday, I saw him throwing. Then on Sunday, I saw him throw into a huge headwind, and they kind of did a little bit more West Coast offense with the wind whipping the way it was, but still very quick in his decision making on that one. And they rolled in that game before I had to head out and catch my flight. So Hurley, very physically developed. Certainly one that you look at him as a 15-year-old and you're like, okay, does he lose the baby fat kind of up top? Does he, what does he look like 2-3 years from now? Because he's so young, very polished, but his lower body is so physically developed. I don't know how much more weight or mass he can necessarily add on there. So just got the chance to get out and see Colin Hurley, and that was awesome. It was cool to see him finally throw in person.
It's one of those things too, where you see him in 7-on-7 settings, and even on Friday nights when you watch his his highlights, he can sling it. I mean, the ball jumps out of his arm. He can absolutely throw the football, and that's what has him as a top 10 quarterback in the country. Now, this is a kid, as you mentioned, 15 years old, young, but reclassified, moved up into the next class. So essentially, he just played his junior year, which would have been his sophomore year, and now he's entering his senior year, which would have been his junior year. So he's a little bit jumped in terms of high school eligibility, not having a ton of time left. I think with Colin Hurley, people are ready for the two sides to marry, like unbelievable arm talent, all of that. And then when you look at his production across his 2 full years of really starting, let's just say the past 2 seasons, he was a 54% passer. He was a 56% passer. And you want that to be in the 60s. So 60s and above, obviously. You're not far off from that. And most guys make their biggest jumps in those final years of high school. Now, obviously, his final year is coming up as a senior. It will have been a short-lived high school career, but he'll have time to get to college and continue to make strides. I am so excited to see how he does in a setting like Elite 11, how he does on a lot of these 7-on-7s, which are just kicking off. As you said, you went down there to watch him, and then what that means for his senior year. And I do believe he'll be a guy as a senior is in that 60% range as a completion guy, has a big arm. Then you walk away feeling like, man, this kid's a leader on and off the field. He's gotten better and better as his high school career went on, and he can clearly throw the football. I'm growing to really, really like the Colin Hurley addition more as time goes on, just because, as you said, he's so young. He was 14 and 15 when a lot of these evals were coming in. As he has time to just mature and grow his game, I think he's only going to get better and better. I do like this early addition, especially after, look, Julian Sayin was another one of the top quarterbacks down there. That's another big-time guy they were after. So you like that Sloan and the staff are putting themselves in positions where they are swinging for the best guys out there.
Yeah, and I think, look, we talked about it a little bit on the board with our subscribers at the Bengal Tiger when we posted those highlights from Battle Miami, and somebody said something about his age and how like it impacts his ranking in a negative light. Well, no, when you're younger, that's absolutely a positive. The reality is, Colin Hurley has great arm talent. You mentioned his production, Shay, but also he's not ever had a season with positive rushing yards. And I don't believe there's been a quarterback ever drafted without gaining a positive rushing yard, at least in the recent times that we've been going through looking for analytics. So I think with his mobility, they rolled him out a few times in the 7-on-7. I want to see him pick up yards. I want to see him move those chains a little bit more. Our On3 staff, we had Charles Power on last week. He dives into a lot of those things and indicators of, well, where are you going to get the next Patrick Mahomes, the next Josh Allen, in terms of guys that, pan out at the pro level. Joe Burrow, we've talked about how Joe Burrow would have been much higher if analytics were involved with his basketball profile and coach's son and all of those things. Colin Hurley just has some things to prove. And that's why the senior season is so important for him. And certainly we've gotten a good glimpse of him now in the 7-on-7. And you mentioned more events to come, but I was impressed overall. He had a good group of receivers, a couple of LSU targets, and 4-star wideout Isaiah Williams and 4-star wideout Burdell Richardson, who are going to check out campus at some point this spring. Both go to my high school in Tampa, Carrollwood Day. And just overall was a good weekend for him. They lost in the second round. I wasn't able to see that game, but he threw the ball well, and the arm talent's there. So I'm looking forward to getting out there at some point, either in spring ball or seeing him at another event.